Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now on today's video, I'm going to use my ProColor DTF printer. I'm going to print out an image and I'm going to try to put it on a canvas board. Now if you're not familiar with DTF, that stands for direct to film. You print on special film with a special printer using DTF ink. Now once you print it out, you have to put some adhesive powder on it and then you cure that. And by curing, I just mean you have to add a heat source, it melts it onto the ink, then it solidifies, and it's ready for you to press it on a shirt, on a tote bag, or today, on a canvas board. Now in today's video, I'm going to put a DTF transfer onto this canvas board. And so here's what I'll be using. I have an 8x10 canvas board. You can get these at the Dollar Tree, you can get them at Michael's, you can get them at Walmart, you can even buy them on Amazon. So I'm going to start with an 8x10. I have some DTF film. Now this is the film that came with my ProColored printer, and I'll talk more about that printer here in a little bit, but I'll be using a sheet of this film. I have some DTF transfer adhesive powder. This is Yamation brand. And they have a coarse, a medium, and a fine, and this is the fine. That's what I prefer. I have some butcher paper. I just use that to catch the extra powder. I have some heat tape, and then I have a glove because when I use this, I like to have my hand in a glove. Now my image is something I got off of Creative Fabrica. I think it's an adorable fall image. I will put a link to that in the video description in case you're interested in finding it and using it. I love my Creative Fabrica account. It really takes away the stress of designing. Now I'm also going to use the PC computer when I print it on the DTF printer, and then I'll use a heat press. So let's hop onto the computer. I'm going to show you how to use this RIP software. It is super easy. Now, I have a longer tutorial on the RIP software when I set it up. On this one, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to bring it into the software and to print it. To use RIP software, which I'll talk about more in a minute, but to use RIP software, you have to be on a PC. A Mac is not supported at this time, so here's the desktop on my PC. I'm going to click on the ProRIP software right here. It does take a bit of time to open, so be patient. Now RIP software is software that manages not only your typical blue, magenta, yellow, and black inks, but since a DTF printer also prints in white, it manages the white ink as well. Typically, you're going to have a layer of the colors in your image, and then you're going to have the software tell your printer to put 1 or 2 layers of white behind the colors. That way, they'll show up well on any color of fabric or other material. Now that my software is open, I need to bring in my image. So I go up to the Add Picture icon and click on it. Then I select my image and click Open to add it to the screen. Now the first thing that I'll do with the image selected, I'll go down here to rotate it so that it at least fits better on the film. I want my image to cover most all of the canvas board, so I take a little time to adjust its size. Now just like with sublimation, you have to print your image in the mirrored view, or backwards. That's because after it prints, you're going to use the film as your carrier sheet. So you end up turning it over and pressing on top of the film. Now I'll show you exactly what I mean in just a little bit. Then I go ahead and move my image to the middle of the film. Now you can adjust things like brightness, contrast, saturation, and so on. And I do end up adjusting the contrast and saturation a bit to really make it pop. And then over here on the right, I go ahead and I make sure that the color layer looks good, and I make sure both of those white layers are set to print white. Now once I like it, I click on the RIP icon. Most of these settings were default settings. I did play with this bottom one just a bit and ended up with 1 layer of my colored inks and 2 layers of white ink. Finally, I click on Print, and the RIP software works with the image to manage the colors and the white ink. Now I have mine set to start the print job as soon as the RIP process is complete, so let's watch the printer do its job. Now I'm going to start in real time so that you can see the speed of the printing. See how it lays down the colored inks first? And then it puts the layers of white ink on top of that. This is why DTF can be used on so many fabrics and so many colors. Okay, so here's what the white ink side looks like. And we're going to put powder on it. We'll cure the powder. And then when we press it on the canvas board, this is what you see. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get my glove on. Now, my DTF powder, again, is by Yamation. You can get that on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the video description. It came in a pouch, or kind of a bag, but I moved it to this container that I got at the Dollar Tree store. And I have a little medicine cup in here. So I'm just going to put a bunch of this powder on. And then I'll move it back and forth so it coats everything. And I like to move it back and forth, I don't know, 4 to 6 times. Now, when I was printing this out, I realized because I'm putting this on a white canvas board, I really didn't have to have those 2 layers of white. I probably still would have had 1 layer of white, but I didn't really have to have 2. I think that since I've gotten this printer, this is probably the first thing that I've actually printed to put on white, and I just kind of forgot that issue. So it's not going to hurt it, but if you're putting on white, I don't think you need 2 coats of white ink. Okay, that looks pretty covered, so I'm just going to tilt it up so a lot of the excess falls off, and then I'll tap it to get the rest of the excess off. And then hopefully you'll be able to see that looks kind of like sugar. All right, let's move on over to the curing oven, and I'll show you that process as well. So here's what the back of it looks like. And you can see it's really shiny. Now it is dry, but it is shiny. Has kind of an orange peel effect, but you can touch this. You could actually store it and use it later if you wanted to. And then through the film, there's what the front side looks like. I think those colors are just gorgeous. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pre-press this canvas board. It could have moisture in it. I want to remove that. And then I'm just going to press it for about 5 or 10 seconds. See how it looks. Sometimes you can get little air bubbles on the back. If there's no air bubbles, I'll probably do it another 5 seconds or so. And to me, that gets it ready to accept your DTF transfer. Now, when I pre-press this, I'm going to go ahead and have just a regular piece of printer paper or copy paper on top of it, just in case there's anything on the bottom side of the platen that might get on my canvas board. Now the other thing, when you're doing DTF, you want some pretty good pressure, especially when it's going on fabric, but even on this canvas board, I'm going to have pretty good pressure on it. Now, I don't know if you can see that rectangle on there, but that's actually moisture that came out of that canvas board. So that's exactly why I do this. Now, I don't see any air bubbles on the back, and it really doesn't look warped at all. Now, with that moisture coming out of there, I'm going to go ahead and do this for another 10 seconds. Now I want that to cool down before I put my DTF transfer on there because I don't want to turn it over, put it on it, and have it start to melt. Okay, I think that's cooled off plenty, so let me go ahead and put this on my canvas board. And since you can see through the film, it makes it really nice and easy to get it where you want it. Now I'm going to put a couple of pieces of heat tape on the end of this, and I'm just going to tape it down to my pad. That tape might help keep it from shifting when the pressure comes down on it. So I'm going to press this at 325 for 10 seconds. Now after I press it, I'm going to go ahead and let it cool off. I'll take the film off, and then I'm going to put some parchment paper over it and press it for another 10 seconds. That second press just helps get it into the fibers of whatever you're putting it on. So if you're putting it on a shirt, it really helps get it down into the fibers. It's not going to make as big a difference on the canvas board, but I want to go ahead and do that second press. All right, that's not bad. Let me see if that'll come off. It came off really easily, and that is beautiful. Look, there is no ink left behind. So I'll put a piece of parchment paper over this, press it 10 more seconds. Then we'll go back to the table and let's take a good look at it. All right, so this comes right off too. And let's take a really good look at that. That is gorgeous. Now I can feel it on there, but I can also feel that it's nice and stuck to the canvas board. Let me tilt it up so you can see. The edges are down really, really nicely. Now I can see a little bit of the adhesive oozed out, just a little bit. And on this white canvas board, it's really barely noticeable. It's a little bit shiny, like look right here. You might be able to see some of that adhesive that oozed out. It is really barely noticeable. But the one thing that it makes me think of is, I may not want to paint this a color and then do this, because that shininess might show up more on a painted color. I'm not really sure. I probably ought to try that out and see. But I am thrilled with this result. That's beautiful. Now, if you're not interested in a DTF printer, then the video's over, and I really appreciate you taking your time to watch this today. If you're interested in seeing what printer I have, let me show you online right now what they have going on. But for those of you signing off, thanks so much for joining me, and until my next one, bye-bye. So I wanted to show you ProColor's website because they're having a big sale in September. If I go up here to store and I go down here to the A4 size, that's the size I use. It is smaller. It prints up to 8.2 inches wide. If you want a larger one, you can get up to 13 inches. It's just, they're quite a bit more expensive. But let's look at this smaller one. So you can see here, Here's one that doesn't show the oven. Here's one that shows the oven, and it shows the sale price is $17.49. But if I click on this one, I see that if I don't need that oven, here's the option to get it without the oven. And look at that price, down to $13.99. But if I add that to my cart, it's even less. Now, earlier I was having a hard time getting it to go into my cart. Let's see what happens this time. Now, it said it came with ink, so I don't need more. Okay, so here's what was happening before. Even though I clicked on the one that was $13.99, it puts the oven in there. So let's delete that. Let me show you how I figured out to actually get the right one. Instead of going the way I did, I just typed in DTF printer. And then from this list, I clicked right here, add to cart. And this time, it actually put the right one in, and the sale price is $12.59. So let's go ahead and say view the cart. On that last screen, it showed the promotion right now was worth something like $130, $140. And so this is so much better than just the $80 off. So let's go ahead and get rid of this and see how much one with the oven would actually be. So go back down and let's click here. That's the one with the oven. We'll say add to cart. It's on sale for $17.49, but with their big September promo, it brings it down to $15.74. Now lastly, let me show you something. There's other bundles, but honestly, I didn't think they were worth it. So this one is over $200 more, and for that extra $200, let me show you what you get. You get this here. This is like an easy press. So it's something that depends on your power, and I would much rather use a heat press with this. Now they have bundles with heat presses, but look, for $800 more than this one, for that $800, all you're getting is that heat press right there. This is a heat press you can get off of Amazon for like $200. So in my opinion, either the one without the oven or the one with the oven, those are probably the best values. But of course, check them all out, whether it's this size or the other size. I will put my link in the video description. And even though right now you can't double the promos, if you use that link, I do appreciate it. So thanks so much for joining me today. If you made it this far, thank you so much. And until my next video, bye-bye.